by far the most popular video, or should I say the most viewed videos of all the videos I've posted on YouTube, is the one with homemade tools in the title. And the most simplest of the tools is the disc sander, which I show in the video. It's the easiest one to make, but despite its simplicity, it is the most used. It makes a really good cabinet maker out of me and carpenter. And I have another version which I use for metalwork, and that turns me into a better metalwork person, skilled person than I really am, because you can get some excellent finishes with them. This is nothing more than a 1/2 horsepower motor, 3/4 if you're going to go to this side. This is a 1 foot in diameter disc I've made up. I've made a bush to fit the shaft of the motor, but you can buy aluminium discs, sanding discs, and if they're not large enough for you, you can always back them out by putting a piece of blockboard over them to the size you wish. I have on the metalwork version, I have a table which tilts in every possible angle, and that is extremely handy. But 99% of the time all work is done at 90 degrees to the disc, so the woodworking version is permanently fixed at 90 degrees to the disc. It makes it simple to make, and you can still do angles by attacking the disc at a different angle. And here I have a adjustment for doing that for repetitive work. But it could be nothing more than a G-clamp around the table and a piece of wood clamped down to the desired angle to get the repeat angles you require. The motor is mounted, I can't turn it round because it's fixed to the wall, but it's bolted down to a big chunk of wood, and as I say, this is fixed to the woodworking shed. And the table is raised just below centre mark, or centre of the diameter, and packed up with pieces of wood, and this is held on by 4 nuts and bolts only, and I just undo these nuts in order to replace the sanding disc. This particular table is a piece of nylon made from a cutting board. I make everything from what I can scrounge or find. You can buy these sanding discs. Here's a new one, and it has a peel off sticky back that you can stick to the front of the disc sander, but there's an expensive way of buying them. It's far easier to cut your own from rolls of stock material. I'll show how this is done on the metalwork one. But it's a very simple tool, as I say. It's a simple tool to make, but very, very worthwhile making. It does make a lot of mess. You could fix a vacuum cleaner underneath to catch as much of the dust as possible, but I keep my woodworking and my metalworking separate in different sheds. So I don't mind. It's all the dust is not a bad price to pay for the convenience of these things. I can wholeheartedly recommend that you make one. It is easy. There's no plans. You don't need plans for something this simple. You can buy a machine already set up for this, but again, they're expensive, and I derive some pleasure from making the thing myself, and it suits my needs. So I'm encouraging you to do the same. The machine you see here is the metalwork version, and this one the table does tilt in any position. But believe me when I say that is handy, but it isn't a requirement, and I can assure you that most of the time, certainly 95, 96, 97, 98% of the time it's used at 90 degrees. So if you don't want to go to the trouble of making something like that or purchasing a ready-made machine, stick to the same format as the woodworking one. This one, as I say, is 9 inches, and it has the advantage of a protection on there, but you've got to be pretty stupid to push your hands on there. This one's a 3rd horsepower motor, by the way. And these discs, well, I make these up myself. The backing, the aluminium disc for this motor, you can purchase. I think Picador do them. And if you're going to make a 9-inch one, they do sell a 9-inch backing plate to fit your motor. Just make sure that the bush size in the centre fits the shaft size. If it's smaller, you can always have it bored out quite easily. But as I say, I make these, and from stock abrasive cloth, and I stick them on with a contact adhesive, either a carpet spray contact adhesive, Fix-A-Fix, anything like that, and I've never had one curl up or come off. Far superior to those that you peel off and stick on, so I encourage you to make your own at a fraction of the price. Here I've removed the table, makes it much easier. So how do we replace the emery cloth we put on? Well, I use heat. If you get a hot air gun and you heat the entire surface, you'll find it'll pull off easily. But to speed the job along, I'm going to use a blowtorch. Heat the entire area. All these contact glues work on the same principle. It takes a few moments. If you've got an aluminium backing disc, this absorbs the heat quite a bit, so it takes a while if it's aluminium. If it's wood, it would have fell off by now. And then with a pair of pliers, as simple as that. Let that cool down before you do anything else. I buy my abrasive cloth in rolls such as this. This is 120 grit, quite thick, and it has a curl on it, but you can get rid of that. And I find it convenient to actually take the disc off. There's your aluminium disc you can buy if you don't want to make one, and it's simply held on with a Allen key. And I lay it on me abrasive. You can mark round it roughly, give yourself an extra inch and trim it off afterwards. And using a very rough old pair of scissors or a Stanley knife, whichever you find easiest, cut a section. You can see why I'm using an old pair of scissors. Doesn't do much good. Cut a section off, nothing is wasted, I might add. Give it a roll in the opposite direction to take some of the curl out of it. There we go, not quite so bad. And then using a carpet spray, Fix-A-Fix, anything like that, spray the adhesive all over. Put it aside, same with the disc. Stand it aside 5-10 minutes, or whatever the instructions say on the tin, till it gets tacky. In this case, because this is quite warm, it's tacky pretty quickly, look. I'll give it a few more moments. And then we'll place the disc on top of the abrasive paper, and we'll trim the excess off afterwards. I find this paper lasts considerably. It's not paper, it's a cloth, it's an abrasive cloth. Loads of manufacturers will supply this, and simply drop one on top of the other. push down. And now with an old Stanley knife, or again an old pair of scissors, kept just for this purpose, go around your disc. Keep close into the disc as this will help with balance. You can see how quickly it's done, and the cost saving is tremendous. There we go, all done. Put your disc back on and tighten up the Allen key and put the table back on. Well, it really is as quick as that to replace the sanding medium. I wholeheartedly recommend it. It matters not which way the motor turns, whether it's clockwise or anti-clockwise, but you want to work on the downward side of the disc. So if it's going anti-clockwise, you primarily work on this area, and if it goes in that direction, you work on that area. The idea being that it's then held down against the table and not liable to fly up. The table needs to sit quite close to the disc, and this is more than enough gap. I recommend nothing more than 1/8 of an inch, because if you have anything small it can tip up and jam down in, and you could end up with a nasty, possibly a nasty accident. So make sure the table sits as close as you can to the sanding material. If it's too close and touches in places, just let it run for a minute, it'll soon clear. Anyway, if you're into DIY, making things, this is one of the simplest tools you can make. Make one for metalwork, make one for woodwork. I have an even smaller one that I use for, which has certain angles on the table to enable me to put Pacific angles on lathe tools, but that's a specialist thing and I'll show that later on. So I'm encouraging you to have a go. It's not difficult, and this is a little follow-up from the workshop tools. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now.